202nd day of heroic resistance of Ukraine. I'm Natalia Staroprava. We continue our series of briefings at the Mediacentrу Ukraine. With us, we have Dmytro Solomchuk, Ukrainian MP, the member of the Department for Agrarian and Land Policy Committee. Greetings. We've had a grain corridor for over a month. How much produce has crossed the border, and where is it heading? Look, we started the supplies by land back in March, and the numbers weren't too impressive. We had up to 400,000 tons a month. We then ramped it up to 1 million, 2 million tons per month, and now by land and by river, in August, we supplied over 2 million tons, and we supplied as much by sea. We're going to amass the volume transported by sea. We aim to transport at least 3 million tons in September. It's much cheaper and much easier done by maritime freight. So this means greater profit and greater opportunity for our agricultural companies. The produce is supplied to the same countries we had supplied before the 24th of February, the full-scale war. These are mostly Asian countries and African countries. Some products are heading to Europe that process. These countries then also supply to Asia and Africa. Some products are going to the Yemen and to the Ethiopia, and they're procured by the UN. These are countries that have difficulty with food security. So that we can transport all the last year's harvest and start transporting this year's harvest, we need to reach 5.5 up to 6 tons a month, and I believe we'll be able to perform at this level in September and October. All the prerequisites are set in place by the Presidential Office, the Ministry of Infrastructure, and the Ukrainian Parliament. France and Romania have stated their plan to ramp up the Ukrainian grain. So what are you seeing? How is the logistical routes performing? The volumes are growing daily. The export by land is difficult, and often the trucks have a lot of waiting time. And we are talking to our counterparts in other countries to streamline the sanitary and epidemic screening at the border. An agreement was signed between France and Romania, and that is a very important step. I believe that will help us have more railway grain cars, as it's much cheaper and faster by rail compared to transporting by road. Tell us more about this year's harvest. What have we harvested so far, and what crops are giving us the best yields? Well, we will still be harvesting for some time. We're still harvesting buckwheat. The weather is getting in the way. We are in for a rainy spell, and we can't reap. We've reaped over 25 million tons, but we have buckwheat and sunflower and soya and corn. So the harvesting season will continue for another 3.5 months, and I believe we'll reach 65 million tons per year. There's another challenge of storing the produce. So, is there enough? Do we have enough storage capacity? We had enough storage capacities for the cereal crops, but if we talk about sunflower, soya, and corn, we don't have enough storage facilities. Some negotiations have been conducted with a number of governments and with some charitable organizations, international organizations, and soon the USAID and the Ukrainian fund, the Victory Harvest, the Warren Buffett Fund, and others will give us the mobile temporary facilities for storage and special bags for storage and the loading equipment. So the harvest collected this year will be aptly stored. I can say that all the governmental programs, all the international foundations, and our agricultural companies are buying out all the stocks of bags, the 200-ton bags that are made globally. So the picture with the cereal crops is clear, but we have dairy and livestock production. How have these markets changed in the context of war? Yes, they have evolved. Kyiv, Kharkiv, Sumy, Poltava used to be the biggest dairy producers, as well as Chernihiv. They comprised 42 or 43% of the overall milk yields. Unfortunately, the occupiers destroyed 200,000 cows in the households, in the farmers' companies, and about 90,000 cows have been killed in the individual households. Many cows have been relocated to the western part of Ukraine and then are housed in Zhytomyr, Vinnytsia, Lviv, Ivano-Frankivsk regions. A lot of people have been relocated towards the western parts of Ukraine and are now some people are staying in the western and eastern part of Ukraine. We will have enough dairy produce for the time being and for the foreseeable future. We've seen a lot of smaller companies evolving in the western part of Ukraine with 20 to 50 cows. We supporting them, giving them 5,000 hryvnia per head. This is for small operators up to 100 cows. We are analyzing the situation with the agrarians. We are working with foreign donors. And by springtime, we'll have a lot of programs to support livestock production and processing, which is very important both for domestic food security and for the development of the rural territories. A lot of IDPs are now living in the villages. There are people who are willing to work and to help support the villages. We need to have 2 or 3 farms, 2 or 3 production sites, and then the villages could be vibrant, they can be evolving, and people will want to stay and work in the village. The evolution of the agriculture is going to evolve drastically in Ukraine. It won't be effective to grow technical crops, but perhaps with the exception of export, inevitably we'll have smaller operators who will be growing crops and rearing livestock and developing local um, production, because the dairy products made locally are much more competitive because they don't have an extensive logistical leg. They don't have to be transported from the neighboring region. So small operations will evolve in the future. Tell us more about the programs to support such companies. How will they help support the farms who've been afflicted by the war? And I'm particularly interested in dairy and livestock operators. There are current programs to help support small farms of up to 120 hectares. They file their application through the state agrarian register, and this is a kind of agrarian deed in place, and they will get a funding per hectare, and those operators with up to 100 cows will get a funding of 5,300 hryvnia per head. All the agrarians whose farms were destroyed when under occupation in the past or currently, will have to have expert assessment of the stolen, looted, and destroyed assets and machinery. They will need to go to the Ministry of Agrarian Policy. There is a designated site where the losses have to be recorded, and the day will come when we will receive reparations, and the payments will be dedicated to help restore the agricultural productions, as is one of the key industries in Ukraine, if not the most important industry in Ukraine. And the world is showing that the food security will be on top of the global agenda for the future. And if we become major producers and processors, we can be the top country, the um, provider of food security for the world, and benefit from it. What is the what are the trends of exporting dairy and livestock products? We've always exported most dairy products to China, Poland, and now we are ramping up our exports because even though we have fewer cows, we have enough we have enough dairy products for the domestic market, so we can export more. Since we have fewer people living in Ukraine, but all of them will definitely come back once we liberate our homeland and our dairy. Products are very competitive globally in Germany, Poland, Holland, as their prices have gone up because the fodder prices have gone up. So the purchasing price on milk in Europe has reached 60 euro cents, and that's about 25 hryvnia. Kherson has always been a region sustaining Ukraine with tomatoes, watermelons. What are the alternatives currently to make up for the shortage of the Kherson produce? How do we even out the deficit? Yes, Kherson tomatoes are most definitely the very best in the world in terms of their taste and other qualities. The same goes for watermelons and eggplants. We produced high quality onions, and we have lost a lot of the yields as they've grown up to 40-50% of the overall produce. The Turkish imports, Albanian imports have partially replaced these products, but they don't taste as well as those grown in Kherson. It all depends on the water used. It all depends on the growing conditions, weather conditions. We have excellent quality and excellent taste. A lot of grant programs were implemented for the hothouses. Many farmers run the hothouses not only for winter crops, but for the round the year harvest, and the red peppers, the sweet peppers, the eggplants, the onions are grown in other regions like Zakarpattia and elsewhere. And I'm pretty certain that the Ukrainian armed forces will liberate Kherson city and Kherson region, and next year we'll enjoy our very best products and export them to other countries at a very fair price. What are the challenges facing the agrarian market these days, and what are plans for its recovery? The major challenge for the autumn is drying the yields, corn in particular. Many will be processing the hulks for fuel. Those who have the dryers, it's very good that we have procured the agrarian bags. And if we don't have capacity to dry the products or don't have the fuel for drying, we can collect the produce as it is without drying in the bags and then unpack them and dry them gradually. Perhaps even in spring, and surely it's drying makes better sense when it's warm outside. So this is one of the key challenges in my opinion. Our farmers and our agrarians are very self-reliant and very market sensitive, and they are quick to start local production. So it would make good sense to develop livestock operations, but that doesn't happen in a season. It requires a long time investment. So these are the proposals we have received. We'll process them with our European and American colleagues, as we have to prioritize livestock production, then vegetable growing and vegetable storehouses, craft productions, and processing for export to other countries, to other markets. How are the Ukrainian farmers and agrarians feeling? What are they saying? What are they planning? As you must have heard, owing to the presidential support and owing to the great friend of Ukraine, Warren Buffett, we are launching the campaign, the Victory Harvest, and we are bringing in the machinery to collect the harvest and the sowing machinery. So some are joking that we could use the Russian tanks as the sowing equipment. We need to be able to till our land and grow the crops and provide for ourselves and provide for others to make us a wonderful place, a wonderful agricultural producer for the world. Dmytro Solomchuk, member of the Ukrainian Parliament, member of the Agrarian and Land Policy Committee. Thank you for this conversation. This is all we have for you for today. Please follow the announcements of the upcoming events at the Media Center Ukraine resources and stay